Hello and welcome to the latest episode of TATV's Defence Monthly show. As you can see, we're without Alan this week, but instead I've got the ever-capable Angie Bee with me, and together we're going to guide you through the defence highlights that have been affecting our emerging markets of South Asia, Arabia and Africa in what's been a really exciting and eventful month. Alan's going to kick himself for not being here. I'm Jon Lake.
And I'm Angie Bee.
Now, this month we've seen reports of new Turkish overtures towards the USA, aimed at procuring new Lockheed Martin F-16V fighting Falcons. This to revitalise their fighter arm. We've seen a maiden flight for two Kuwaiti Eurofighter Typhoons, the first of those to fly, and we've also seen the end of US-based conversion training for the initial cadre of Nigerian A-29 Super Tucano pilots. We also spent a marvellous couple of days with Thales in France, where we saw the SpyRanger UAV, which is already saving lives in Mali, and where we got a great briefing on the Talios targeting pod and also on the company's line of surface radars.
And from New Delhi, Menon will be bringing us the latest news from India. That's all to come after this short message from our sponsors.
As French soldiers hunt jihadist insurgents in the arid deserts of Mali, they've got a new ISR tool to help them locate, identify and track down the enemy. That new tool is the SpyRanger UAV, which helps the modern augmented soldier to see further and fight smarter, and which is already playing a decisive role in gaining and maintaining tactical superiority on tomorrow's battlefields. The SpyRanger is a digital-ready mini surveillance UAV equipped with the company's Spyball, a top-of-the-line gyro-stabilised high-definition day and night sensor payload. This is sufficiently accurate even to be used to target artillery systems. SpyRanger is able to stream high-definition electro-optical and infrared video and still pictures too via a secure high-rate data link, thereby bringing frontline units an organic, autonomous intelligence gathering and offensive reconnaissance capability, providing a more agile, faster reacting tool than would be provided by a typical large tactical UAV today. The SpyRanger air vehicle was designed to Thales' own specifications by the small company Aviation Design in France, and it uses an all-composite high-epoxy carbon material structure for high strength and low weight. It's powered by a high-performance DC brushless electric motor for low noise and also for minimal maintenance requirements. Navigational waypoints are entered via the SPY-C portable ground station, and the aircraft will then fly itself. If the link with the ground is lost, the UAV will automatically return to a pre-programmed location and will land itself without further human intervention. The ground control system consists of a ruggedized laptop computer which stores sensor data from the SpyRanger and also displays the UAV's flight information on 3D maps in real time. The SpyRanger can perform repeated takeoffs and landings, even in confined areas and difficult terrain, and it does this by using a lightweight carbon fibre ramp for launch, and it then lands on a replaceable foam skid. Some 70 complete SpyRanger 330 systems, with up to 210 air vehicles, have been ordered for the French Armée to meet its mini reconnaissance drone system requirement. That's SMDR is the French acronym. And the first of these were delivered in early 2020. These then made their operational debut in Mali in late 2020, and they've been used to support French forces there, contributing to what the French MOD calls mission success every day and every night, and in what was described as the toughest environment in Mali. French Army feedback was that the SpyRanger provides them with a capability jump compared to existing mini drones.
Well, that all sounds very impressive, John, and I know that our picture editor, chief photographer, videographer and video editor, Ian Billinghurst, grabbed an interview with Remy Mongabel, who is the Surface Radar Bid Director for Thales. He conducted the interview inside the anechoic chamber and talking to Remy about the company's ground fire and Seafarer radars.
Seafarer radar is currently in process of mass production for the French FDI program. It's a 4 fixed panel radar, completely digital and completely software driven. It is the top of the technology today and the top of the naval performance today. It can handle a very large number, several hundred of targets up to 300 kilometers. It is capable, of course, of refreshing an air situation in a few seconds. And in parallel, it can also refresh self-defense, small range area, and also a surface channel. And it can also control several Aster missiles to handle a number of targets. So the Seafarer has been specifically designed for frigates. It's a sizable radar. We can adapt it to small size frigates or to larger frigates. It will affect its power and, of course, its detection range. We also have a rotating version of the Seafarer that is directly derived from the ground fire. So the ground fire is presented here on the pictures. It's a panel, one panel radar. The antenna is larger than one panel of a Seafarer, and like all the families of radars we have developed here in Limours, when the antenna is down, the complete radar is fitted in an ISO 20 feet parcel. And so this radar, when deployed, is capable of detecting targets up to 400 kilometers. It's a rotating antenna, which is also capable of starring mode. And just like the Seafarer, it can track several hundred targets and handle several Aster missiles in this bubble. And from this configuration, this rotating configuration, we are currently in the process of transferring it, I would say, to the naval world with a rotating Seafarer.
And you got to chat to them about the Talios targeting pod too. I remember that when we were looking at the Skyros exercise that the Egyptians had with the French back in February, you were quite excited about the fact that the Egyptians already have taken delivery of the Talios pods and Scalp cruise missiles for their Rafales. But I gather that they didn't fess up to who their other customers for the Talios are.
That's right, Angie. They certainly didn't. Thales really weren't keen to talk about customers, but they did say that there were 4 of them. Now, here at TATV, we know that the pod is already in frontline service with the French Armée de l'Air and the Aeronavale, but also with the Egyptian Air Force. As you say, we saw the video. So who's left? Well, we know it's not Qatar, who've gone with the Lockheed Martin Sniper pod for their Rafales, for commonality with the Typhoon and the F-15. And we also know that it's not the UAE, who opted for the Sniper pod for their Mirage 2000 upgrade. Now, that was a surprise because obviously they were the launch customer for the predecessor, the Damocles. And India seems to be opting for the Lightning pod for its aircraft. So we're left with Greece, perhaps, and perhaps even Croatia for their Rafales. We had a long chat about Talios with Michel Blancois, the product line manager for the airborne optronic business at Thales.
We have a long history in designing, manufacturing and sustaining pod. We have more than 40 years of experience on that, during which we have sold a lot of pod, more than 400 for different customers, and according to the customer, some of them are still in service, even the first generation, which is Atlas, which is still flying, for example, into French forces. So, in fact, that's the trend of the market. It's multifunction equipment. You have a lot of things about an aircraft, and we have experience in targeting pod. We also have experience in recce systems since years also. That's the reason why we have decided to merge the 2 product lines and to design Talios as a 2-in-1 pod, meaning that we are able to address targeting function but also recce function. In fact, you have to keep in mind that technology evolves, and if you look long time ago, it was wet film for Ricky, then you go to digital, and that's why we take some of the experience of all of this system into this new pod.
Perhaps Jay will know about India's plans for a targeting pod for its Rafales. Hi Jay, what have you got for us this time?
Namaste from India. Thanks Angie. It's festival time in India and there are reasons to cheer for the Indian Air Force. We see some forward movement in the proposed acquisition of the 114 multi-role fighter aircraft by the Indian Air Force, with the new Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chowdhury saying that responses to the RFI have been received and that he's awaiting to move the program forward. He said that the 114 aircraft requirement represents the key to tackle the decline in the number of squadrons, and explained that MRFA will replace the current Mirage 2000, MiG-29s and the Jaguar fleets. The contract is estimated to be worth over $15 billion and has been described as one of the world's largest defense deals. The RFI has been responded to by several global players, including fighter jet makers from the US, France, Russia and Sweden, and the quadrinational Eurofighter consortium. As well as the Typhoon, the American F-15 and F-21, the French Rafale, Swedish Gripen and Russian Sukhoi 35 are all in the running. Interestingly, the IAF chief said the project should definitely be under the Make in India program. Our sources in the IAF says Rafale is likely to be the front runner even if the MRFA competition is held, because the IAF is not looking at having multiple types of aircraft. India recently bought 36 Rafale from France. So the next decade will see the phasing out of few squadrons. Let me give you a drawdown. 4 squadrons of MiG-21 will be retired in the next 3 to 4 years. The phase-out plan for the 116 Jaguars is expected to start from 2023 through 2038. And the Mirage 2000 has completed 35 years of service in the Indian Air Force, and the existing 3 squadrons of MiG-29 are undergoing a midlife upgrade. So even with the planned acquisition of 114 MRFA and the 83 LCA aircraft and the indigenous 5th generation advanced medium combat aircraft AMCA, the Indian Air Force will not be able to meet its 42 squadron target over the next 10 to 15 years. Talking about AMCA, the IAF is continuing to provide the requisite expertise, support and operational inputs for the successful rollout of the project. The design of the much talked about AMCA aircraft has now been finalized, and the first prototype is due to be rolled out by the end of 2024. The DRDO developed AMCA promises to meet the Indian Air Force requirement for a stealth 5th generation fighter. 6 squadrons of AMCA are planned initially. The IAF chief also said, and I quote, "We are fully committed to the AMCA program, for which an aggressive timeline has been set by the DRDO. We plan to start inducting the AMCA by early years of next decade," unquote. That's from India. Wish you all a happy Diwali.
It's interesting that Jay should mention the Eurofighter Typhoon, since that aircraft is reported by some to be the favoured choice in neighbouring Bangladesh. Dhaka is preparing to finalise the purchase of a new multi-role combat aircraft to augment and eventually replace its existing ageing fleet of Chengdu F-7s and vanilla old-fashioned MiG-29s. In 2017, the Bangladesh Directorate General for Defence Purchases launched a tender for 8 fighters, plus options for an additional 4 aircraft under the Forces Goal 2030 programme. This requirement was subsequently increased to 16 aircraft. With its economy booming, Bangladesh has invested heavily in modernising its armed forces, and in particular in rebuilding the Air Force, introducing new platforms, new systems and new operating procedures. The Bangladesh Air Force requirement is for a new build, twin-engined, modern fighter with an electronically scanned radar and other state-of-the-art and cutting-edge features, and the Air Force wants a complete package that includes aircraft, weapons, maintenance and training, as well as a range of air-to-air and air-to-surface weapons. It must also include the establishment of an in-country MRO, a maintenance, repair and overhaul facility in Bangladesh. Initially, the main contenders were believed to be the Russian Sukhoi Su-35, the Sukhoi Su-30SM and the MiG-35, but in the last couple of years, Bangladesh has launched a comprehensive westernisation plan. It's now thought to favour the procurement of a Western fighter aircraft for the first time in its history, in part to ensure a qualitative edge over regional rivals such as India, many of whom operate Russian-supplied aircraft themselves. This shift also reflects Dhaka's worsening relations with Moscow, following Russian support for Myanmar over the Rohingya issue, and also after Russia agreed to sell the Yak-130 and the Su-30 to Myanmar. The major turning point, however, came in 2015, when Air Chief Marshal Abu Ezra became the new Chief of Air Staff in Bangladesh, the new head of the Bangladesh Air Force. Ezra wants to phase out his Russian and Chinese fighters in favour of more modern Western aircraft. He personally evaluated the Eurofighter Typhoon at the 2016 Farnborough International Air Show and was reportedly impressed. And interestingly, yesterday I was talking to a source at Leonardo and learned that up until COVID intervened, Ezra and a team of Bangladeshi test pilots had been due to go and fly the Typhoon in Italy last year. During the third Bangladesh-United Kingdom strategic dialogue in 2019, the UK officially expressed its readiness to help the Bangladesh Air Force to obtain multi-role combat aircraft from Europe, though under Eurofighter's rather unusual method of work sharing between the partner nations, the Eurofighter will actually be marketed in Bangladesh by the Italian aerospace firm Leonardo, albeit almost certainly with heavy assistance from BAE Systems and from the UK government. When French Defence Minister Florence Parly visited Dhaka in March 2020, she offered the Dassault Rafale to meet this Bangladeshi MRCA requirement, though the Eurofighter Typhoon is understood to remain the front runner, with the Rafale as the second favourite in that race. Bangladesh is understood to be especially keen to build links with the four high-tech Eurofighter partner nations, who it hopes will help it to build up its own indigenous aerospace industry, while links with the Eurofighter operators will also be of invaluable help to the Bangladesh Air Force. In particular, it would give the Bangladesh Air Force opportunities to train and operate with 4 of the 6 GCC Air Forces, all of whom are themselves Typhoon operators. The Bangladesh Air Force has asked the government to allocate it approximately 25,200 crore taka, that's $3 billion for the programme, and its decision will apparently be announced at the Bangladesh Air Show, the BAS, in February 2022. One local analyst recently gushed that it's now truly time for the head-spinning, neighbour-whopping Eurofighter Typhoon, and justified this rhetoric by saying that the Eurofighter will give the Bangladesh Air Force an edge, a deterrent capability they had been lacking since the independence of Bangladesh. And he further noted that we did not achieve independence through the war so that we can lose it again. Those who sacrificed their lives for creating Bangladesh dreamed of a powerful country that can stand tall among other nations of the world, of the international community. We collectively need to ensure the best for our nation, and that's the explanation for why they want Rafale or Typhoon for the Air Force. Now, staying with the Eurofighter Typhoon, on Friday the 15th of October, the first 2 Eurofighter Typhoons destined for the Kuwait Air Force made their maiden flights at Leonardo's Caselle factory airfield near Turin in northwest Italy. These two aircraft were both two-seaters. The Kuwaiti order for 28 Typhoons will include 6 two-seat trainers, and they were painted in full Kuwaiti Air Force markings with a toned-down Kuwait Air Force crest on the tail and a full-colour Kuwaiti flag. The Kuwaiti Typhoons are going to be the most advanced examples of the Eurofighter when they enter service. They will be the first delivered with the new Phase 3B enhancement package software, and they'll also be the first to be equipped with the Captor E ESA radar, now known as the ECRS Mark 0 and previously known as Radar 1+. Now, ECRS Mark 0 provides significantly more power than competing ESA radars, while the innovative mechanical repositioner for the antenna gives a much wider field of regard, covering the entire forward hemisphere and not just a narrow 60-degree cake slice in front of the nose. And because of this, it promises to be a real game changer in operational service. The Kuwait Air Force have been undertaking a major modernisation and expansion of its fighter arm, and as well as taking these 28 Eurofighter Typhoons, will also receive 28 Boeing FA-18E and F Super Hornets. So that's 56 new state-of-the-art fighters, replacing the existing fleet of just 39 FA-18C and D Heritage Hornets.
And staying on the subject of fighters, Turkey has apparently been making approaches to the USA. These are aimed at securing the export of 40 Block 70 F-16s and 80 F-16V modification kits, and these will bring the existing Turkish Air Force F-16s to the same standard as the new build Block 70s. Turkey once planned to buy 100 F-35As over the course of the Joint Strike Fighter programme, intending to replace its fleet of F-40 Phantoms and F-16 Fighting Falcons with a fleet of F-35As, augmented by indigenous MMU fighters. But in 2019, Turkey was unceremoniously removed from the F-35 programme after acquiring the S-400 missile defence system from Russia. Well, that forced a rapid change of plan, and Turkey now intends to use the indigenous MMU as its high-end stealthy strike fighter, with the F-16 being retained to provide mass. Meanwhile, Turkey has invested some $1.4 billion in the F-35 programme, and the Turkish President, Recep Erdogan, has said that Washington should either deliver the ordered F-35s to Turkey or reimburse the money. In recent weeks, however, Ankara has raised an alternative solution in an attempt to break the deadlock. They have suggested that the money paid is instead used to enlarge its F-16 fleet and to modernise its in-service F-16s. Turkey's request for Block 70 F-16s and upgrade modification kits has been estimated to have a likely value of $6 to $7 billion, but if successful could help to repair ties between two NATO allies, and it would guarantee that the Turkish defence industry, or at least a significant element of it, would continue to be embedded in the transatlantic relationship. It would also address an impending problem for NATO, since Turkey's F-16 fleet, if not bolstered and modernised, will increasingly put the security of NATO's southern flank at risk. And also, it will upset the delicate balance of power between Turkey and Greece in the Mediterranean. Joe Biden faces some uncomfortable choices. If he approves the F-16 deal, he risks being accused of appeasing President Erdogan and incurring the wrath of the Greek and Armenian lobbies. But if he rejects the sale, he risks driving Erdogan's Turkey further into the arms of Russia. And this will deepen Turkey's defence relationship with Moscow, and this will risk NATO's regional cohesion.
Let's turn now to Africa and to close air support and counterinsurgency aircraft. General Curtis LeMay, the commander of Strategic Air Command in the USA, famously said that flying fighters is fun, but that flying bombers is important. I wonder what he'd have made about the modern class of light attack aircraft, counterinsurgency aircraft, aircraft like the Embraer A29 Super Tucano. I guess that for Nigerian Air Force pilots, the answer to Curtis LeMay's question is both fun and important. Faced with the threat posed by Boko Haram and by other armed gangs, those assigned to fly the Super Tucano know that they're flying what is the most effective close air support aircraft in the Nigerian Air Force inventory. The final class of Nigerian Air Force A-29 pilots, maintainers, munitions technicians and other specialists has now graduated, and they've joined the Nigerian Air Force's Super Tucano Squadron, the 407th Air Combat Training Group at Kanji Air Force Base. The Nigerian government purchased 12 A-29 Super Tucano aircraft from the US government under a $493 million foreign military sales contract, which also included spares, support, weapons, simulators and training. The initial cadre of personnel for the new unit were trained by the US Air Force's 81st Fighter Squadron at Moody Air Force Base in Georgia, who ran overlapping classes for the Nigerian Air Force personnel. Each class lasted 9 months, but all of the classes were telescoped into a 1-year period. Nigerian Air Force personnel began training in September 2020, and the training ended 1 year later. Training began with initial qualification on the aircraft. This was intended to introduce pilots to the A-29 and to allow them to familiarise themselves with its flying characteristics. From there, pilots went on to mission training, learning how to actually use the aircraft in a variety of operational environments and learning how to employ the guns, rockets and bombs. Many US allies see the US Air Force as something that they would like to emulate, and the partnership with the USAF allowed the Nigerian Air Force to develop improved TTPs, tactics, techniques and procedures, significantly improving their combat effectiveness. The last wave of A-29 Super Tucano aircraft departed Moody Air Force Base for Nigeria on the 15th of September 2021.
Well, thanks for that, John. That's all we have time for right now, but we'll be back again in a month's time.
Before then, I'll be packing my bags for the Dubai Air Show and for the Air Chiefs Conference, and I'll be reporting back in daily news updates brought to you by TATV, so do please look out for those. See you soon, take care out there, goodbye.
Yeah, take care and goodbye.
How do we achieve ultimate defense interoperability? Inspired by Vision 2030, we are introducing the first of its kind, the World Defense Show. Integrating land, air, sea, satellite, and security.